Hi, Yasha Kahn. Jesse, what's up? Alright, so we're going to go over programming, specifically how Yasha structures his program in terms of volume, intensity, and exercise selection. There's a lot of things I wanted to ask about him. We had a conversation about 3 weeks ago, which he apparently doesn't remember. That's okay, though. I do. And it was basically just questions I had as far as how he weighs volume over each phase, how he records that, because a while back he showed me a spreadsheet of how he tracked every weekly volume and what they meant in relation to the actual training cycle itself. So Yasha's going to give a quick, brief overview, not quick, but a overview of what that looks like, and then I'll ask him some follow-up stuff from there. Stump the coach.
Do it. Bring it in. So the goal is the competition. In the competition, we are aiming to do as heavy of a snatch and as heavy of a clean and jerk as we can. Just one single. We don't need to do sets. We don't need to do any variations from just the one exercise. And the whole time leading up to that competition, that's all we're looking forward to. But in order to lift as heavy as we can, we need to put in a lot of work. We need to make sure that all the ratios of strength throughout the body are good. And if we do only snatch and clean and jerk, then likely our strong points are going to get stronger, strong positions. We're going to overuse them and underuse the weak positions. So throughout the cycle, we're going to need to make sure to use a lot of variations and stress. Let's put more stress on the weak areas. So the way it looks is divided into 3 main phases. The first phase is the training to train phase. Here we do a lot of different kinds of exercises, very little weight, very high volume. We run, we swim, we bike, push-ups, pull-ups, very little weight lifting. Sometimes we put in a couple snatches or clean and jerks, some squats in there just so you don't forget what it is. But in general, it's to get physically fit, to start building rigidity, and to have the fitness needed for the work ahead. And that fitness is needed because during the base phase, which is this big piece right here, we're going to be doing sets of 3, 4, 5, 6. It's going to require strength and rigidity.
It's like that phase that you had me doing like 6 sets of 6 clean deadlift or something like that.
Yep. So here's the fitness. Here's where we actually build the strength. This is the base phase. And in this phase, at first, we start with a very large variety of exercises, but almost all of them are based on the snatch or clean and jerk or squats. And here we go over sets of 3, sets of 4, sets of 5, and all types of different variations, trying to make sure that any weakness is addressed right here. And the closer you get to the end of this phase, the fewer reps per set we're doing, the fewer sets, and the fewer different variations of exercise. So if over here we're doing high hang snatch, hang snatch from the knees, hang snatch from below knees, from the deficit, from blocks, with moving feet, without moving feet, muscle variations, and that's just the snatches, and there's rep ranges and weight ranges all within that. Over here we're doing maybe 1 or 2 different variations of the snatch, and of the clean jerk, and of the squats. Sets of 2, 3, maybe 4, but not much higher than that. And from here to here is just a decrease. So as soon as we build the rigidity that we could with the rigidity exercises, we pull those away, don't need to do those anymore. As soon as we've done enough block work, we don't need to do that anymore, so we cross it off the list. And over here, it's, as I said, mostly very few variations of snatch and clean and jerk. So now we get to the competition prep phase. If we were to start this without doing all this work ahead of time, we wouldn't have the endurance and the rigidity from the beginning of the phase. We wouldn't have all the buildup of the strength that we were working on during the base phase. And here, this is where we reap the rewards. And we're trying to go from the mentality of multiple reps per set, kind of a couple different exercises, to hone it down to just a single exercise, single snatch, single clean and jerk at the end, at the heaviest possible weight.
So, question about this stuff over here. So, when you get out of the initial like fitness part, right, where I'm running and biking and all that stuff, right, and then you get into more lift variations and all that stuff, right. What I noticed was that you changed the exercise selection from every week or whatever. When I've seen other programs and stuff like that, and everything gone through things stuff where it's stuck with the same exercise pool of exercises for 4 weeks, 6, 8, 10, something. It seemed like you kept a couple core ones in there, but you kind of like varied ones through every week and stuff as I went through. What's your thought behind doing that, and what is your method of how you're picking them every week?
Mm-hmm. So there are a couple things that are happening here. One is throughout the base phase, we have some sub-phases. Each sub-phase, depending on who's being trained, lasts a different amount of time. So for me, let's say when I was in my prime, I could train for 4 weeks and then have one recovery week, and then train for 4 weeks, have one recovery week. Now I'm down to maybe 2 weeks of training, hard training, and then 1 week of recovery just because of age. Throughout that now 3-week phase, those 2 weeks I could do a significant amount of work, and then I have to recover from it. During the recovery week, since I need to recover, I can select exercises that are similar to the ones I'm recovering from, but ideally ones that I would get less impact from, so I can actually recover. So instead of classic snatches, I can do snatches without moving feet. The weight would be less because it's not that strong of an exercise, and there would be less impact on my body, on my joints. Also, depending on how far away I am from this point, I can pick exercises that address people's general weaknesses. So if at first I select, let's work more on legs at first, then we would have more snatches and cleans from deficit. That's going to get the legs working. We can't target the legs and the back and everything else all at once, because then we can't do everything, focus on everything. So we can have one mini phase focusing on one thing, next mini phase focusing on another, and third one ideally putting it all together in more classic lifts.
Okay. So if you're running kind of like a general program for an entire team like the one I was doing, right, you're just basically going through every single weakness that people would have, like each thing, right? Because it's not specific to my weaknesses, it's for a team, it's for a large group. You're just going through everything, like back, legs, all that stuff, like as you go through that.
Yeah,
right.
And I try to make sure that everyone gets specific exercises, ones that they need for themselves to address the weaknesses.
Cool.
And people in this demographic that are on this team usually have very similar problems.
Which are what?
So, professionals sit most of the day, so the backs are tight, the adductors are not working at all. So every week we have wall squats.
No,
it's not true.
That's minor duration.
That's the biggest thing. Okay, you have to go home and stretch your adductors every day. That's the common thing that's going on.
What I've noticed is that you do a lot of waves where it started out where we were only doing waves, I think, twice a week or something like that. Now it's like 3 and stuff like that. Now sometimes you go 75, 80, 85, 85, 80, 85, 90. How do you specifically choose that loading every time?
So within the sub weeks in the base phase, we're going to have waves once per week on every Friday.
Right.
Within those, I wanted so that every week within the phase, let's say there are 3 working weeks within a phase, within micro phase. The first week is going to go up to, let's say, 85% in the waves. The second week up to 90% in the waves. The third week up to 95% in the waves. The fourth week is recovery.
Regardless if you're in like a fitness cycle further away or like a
so the first sub phase might end at 90%.
Okay.
The second one might end at 95. The third one might end at 100.
Okay.
And then when we get to the competition prep phase, we do a lot of waves because we prepare for single heavy lifts.
Right.
So we do 3 times a week, both snatch, clean trick, and also squats at the end of every session.
Yeah.
And with that, it's usually Wednesday is the lightest day, Monday is the middle day, and Friday is the heaviest day. And if we have, let's say, 2 weeks, 3 weeks in the comp prep phase, the last one is tapering, so it's just going to be, it will be waves, but going to a significantly lower number. The first 2 are going to be, the first one might go to 95% the first week. The second week is probably going to go to 100, and then we can go down from there. So no 2 weeks, no consecutive weeks are the same ever.
That's very helpful. So that's the general overview of this. Next, I'm going to talk about like the actual like weekly volumes and how we kind of messes around with that and makes sure that people aren't overtraining depending on how much volume they're doing every week.
Thank you.
My pleasure.